Hello and welcome, neighbor. So glad you're with me today in the beautiful but windy. It's windy up here on the Mogollon Rim. It's windy up here on White Mountain today, and I'm wondering if we just shouldn't go inside. I'm with Clark, the Venerable Motorhome today. Clark's been along a lot of places with us. Here's Clark right here. So I think we'll go inside, and I want to talk to you about Corona. Maybe coronavirus, but first of all, Corona beer, and then Corona fear, and then maybe coronavirus. Let's go in. All right, much better in here. Wow, it is windy out there. My app's showing 21 to 22 miles an hour, but it's a beautiful sunny day, mid 50s. It's really lovely, but the wind on the camera, etc., no fun. So coronavirus, you got to talk about it, right? It's the elephant in the room. You can't not talk about it. It's beginning to affect our country, the people, all of us in one way or another. First of all, corona. Why is it called coronavirus? Now, I'm not an expert. I'm not a doctor. I worked in hospitals for a long time, but administratively more than anything else. But corona is just simply a word that means sort of crown. And the reason it's called coronavirus is because it's in the shape, when you look at the virus microscopically, it's in the shape of sort of circular crown with jets coming up like little things on a crown. So it's corona. Now, before this happened, if somebody said Corona, I don't know what you'd have thought of, but I thought of a bottle with a yellow liquid and Corona beer. I mean, I've done some Corona beer, especially down in Mexico when we were at Isla Mujeres and Cabo San Lucas, and I spent some time down in Los Mochis in Jalisco. With missionaries, and we did Corona and Pacifico, but Corona. But now Corona has a whole new attachment, the coronavirus. And it's causing some weird behavior, isn't it? Now, I don't want to talk about that behavior as being unexpected or like so surprising. It actually isn't so surprising. But it made me think, there's a couple of ways that I've seen it being responded to. And so I'm calling them Corona beer and Corona fear. Now, initially more Corona beer, but still some. A couple days ago, I was listening on the radio up here on the mountain to some sports guys who were sports reporters on a sports station on the radio. And because of the coronavirus, the sports stuff is closed down. I mean, there aren't, the XFL's canceled, the Masters tournament's being put back, NCAA is canceled, March Madness is canceled. I was watching PBA World Championships on TV on Sunday in an empty room. They just had the bowlers there. They're still doing it, but nobody in the bowling center. And these guys were lamenting that. Of course, it's their work, it's their bread and butter. So they're reading off all the ways people die in the U.S., and how insignificant the deaths from coronavirus are compared to those ways. And so they were talking about how 25,000 people a year are killed by dogs. 15,000 people a year die by falling downstairs. 50,000 people a year die of the flu. 60,000 people die of the measles. I mean, on, trying to say, come on, folks, get a grip. And then I was on Facebook, I was on YouTube, and I saw and I'm going to say his name because he was on, Rodney Howard-Browne. You may remember him if you're churched at all. He was the somewhat known Laughing Revival 10 or 12 years ago. And he's in South Africa. And he was in there, and they have him on film, saying, we're Christians, we believe We're not giving this thing, we're having church. So, those are a couple examples of what I call Corona beer. It's like, hey, not going to scare me. Let's get these games back on the TV. We're not going to stop coming to church. Heck with it, man. We're believers. You know, Corona beer. Right? This thing ain't what they're saying. We're getting mocked by the press. It's all scare tactics. Heck with them. We're going to do our thing just like Norway. Better not close the bars in my town or the restaurants. Because, you know, it's all hype anyways. That's what I call Corona beer. Eat, drink, and be merry. Just have another beer. It's not nothing to worry about. Don't forget about it. But then, there are the people that are running down and buying all the toilet paper. That are afraid to look outside their houses. That are causing Walmart shelves to be empty. That are glued to newscasters who know nothing more than you do. That's a whole nother story. How America has been seduced and is addicted to whichever its choice is, Fox, CNN, MSNBC, CBS, ABC, NBC, whatever they're addicted to. And what they're seeing and listening to on TV screens are people who are nincompoops. They don't know anything more than you do. But America believes what's on TV. And so you have Corona fear causing all of this nonsensical rushing. I mean, I was reading a report by a psychologist because the question, and I've asked the question was, what does toilet paper have to do with the coronavirus? Why not paper towels? And he was just simply saying, well, it's psychological. People want to still believe they can control something. They still want to believe that they're better off than somebody else. The soap opera of American life plays on, and the foolishness and silliness and yet patheticness of it is that with the coronavirus, now it's become toilet paper that is the gold barter of today. I mean, it's unbelievable. That's Corona fear. Corona beer, there's nothing to worry about, nothing to it. Quit telling me what I can't do. If I want to go sit with 1,000 people, I'm going to go sit with them. Corona fear. I got to hole up, guard my multiple tons of toilet paper. Nobody gets in here. I'll guard my toilet paper with a gun if I have to. And they'd be silly, and they are silly, if they weren't so pathetic. So where does that leave us? Because probably you, like I, over the last few days and weeks, have gone through sort of stages of both, where we want to believe sometimes, quit trying to tell me to be afraid, there's nothing to worry about, and other times looking at our wives or husbands or kids and going, we need to hole up. We need to not go out, depending on the last thing we read or the last report we heard. Well, what about something other than either? What Buddhists call the middle path. And what Jesus and the Bible teaches as the same thing without calling it the middle path. They call it the righteousness or wisdom of the wise person. I'm thinking of Psalm chapter 1, the first verse, second verse. Blessed is the man who walks in the way of God, walks like God, who doesn't follow or copy the way of the sinner, the wicked, Corona fear, who's just out for himself, just wants all the toilet paper, the wicked, and who doesn't sit in the seat of mockers. Corona beer. Not fear and not beer, but whose delight is in the ways, the laws, the reality, the actuality, the truth of God, or of whatever you consider that to be, and I don't care. We've talked before about that thing that's in all of us that knows there's something greater than I am. And I think fundamentalists who take the fun out of fundamentalism, whether they be Christian or Muslim or whatever they are, fundamentalists make a mistake when they just out of hand say, unless you believe what I believe, what you're believing is automatically wrong. Mistake. Jesus never did that. The church does. What about those who are grounded, rather, in what I like to call what is? Not the foolishness of Corona beer, nor the legalism, rudeness, lovelessness of Corona fear, but the balance, maturity, and wisdom of what I'm, to keep that imagery the same, with what I'm going to call Corona clear. The clarity of seeing something for what it is. Now that leads me to that first psalm that I mentioned a couple of minutes ago. Because the psalmist takes that wicked, this side, that wicked, legalistic, selfish, me first, religious, if I can put it that way. We're right, nobody else is. We got all the toilet paper. And that fool that mocks, sitting in the seat of mockers, or in the way of mockers, the beer, get drunk and forget it, and contrast those with the clear person, man or woman, clarity, grounded in truth, with that image of the tree. Psalm 1, that person shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, and very importantly, that tree brings forth his fruit in his season. Meaning, what I'm going to propose, that it means that tree operates, lives independently of the fear and the beer. Now, I want you to think about a tree. And I've got a tree, maybe you can see it through the window, right outside my motorhome here. There's a beautiful kind of adolescent pine tree blowing in the wind. And of course, all around by the way, this is called the area of the tall pines around here. Beautiful tall pines. Whereas on the coast of California, you've got sequoias and firs all up and down the west coast. Redwoods and firs mostly. Here in the White Mountain, Mogollon Rim, central eastern Arizona at 7,000 feet, you've got the tall pines. Trees. Now here's the thing about a tree. A tree doesn't have to make itself known as a tree. A tree just is. It's a tree. It's not trying to impress anybody. It's not trying to make a place for itself. And it is not vulnerable to the fears and the beers. Storms, lots of sunshine, drought, lightning, even fire. You know, Susie and I hike up here all the time with whiskey, And there's a lot of trees that are down, some by fire. There's a big fire that swept through here in 2002, and it's still recovering 18 years later. That's why this tree right here is an adolescent, because it's about 18 years old. But even those trees don't go away. They decay into the ground and create for more trees. The tree, in that sense, is sort of eternal. It just is a tree. And the Old Testament writer wanted to say that is the right kind of person, to be like a tree. Not trying to impress, not trying to be somebody, just so sure and so knowledgeable of its isness, it's just is, that it's invincible to fears and beers. And when I apply that to my own life, it makes me realize I don't have to choose between, it's really nothing at all, and oh my gosh, we got to get some stuff. I don't have to choose. I have that middle ground. That I can just live my life, circumstance to circumstance, like the tree does, day and night to day and night, unafraid of the outer circumstances, because the tree will be a tree no matter what. And that's what happens when you're in touch with the kingdom within. If the kingdom within is who you are, to that extent, you or I are that tree. And circumstances, on the one hand, don't fool us into being fools, and don't scare us into being fundamentalists, religious, and legalistic, mean people. But we can face each day, each circumstance, each moment, because whether you know it or not, each moment is all we have. Have you ever thought about that? All we have is the now. Eckhart Tolle, the living spiritual philosopher, has said that now, the now is the only eternity there is. That's all we have, is right now. Fears about the future are imaginary, they're illusory, they're foolish. The future doesn't exist, except in your head. Regrets and anxieties about the past are equally as foolish, equally as illusory. The past doesn't exist, except in the head. What does exist, what actually is right this moment. And therefore, each moment that occurs throughout your life. Even when you think about the future and think, well, wait a minute, next week will be next week. Yes, but when you get there and I get there, it'll still be now. It'll be the same reality as it is right now, the now. And so the tree, because the tree is autonomous and complete in its relationship with the ground of its being, the kingdom within, brings forth its fruit in its season. Not beer season and not fear season, its season. And so, this is what it does for me. And if you want to join in, you can take it on for you. What it does for me is this, then I'll be finished. It makes me realize I have nothing to fear. And I have nothing to protect. Or as one preacher I heard say it, and it was really well said, he said, the way you live is nothing to fear, nothing to lose, and nothing to hide. I have nothing to fear. I have nothing to lose and nothing to hide. Because I am a tree. And storms can't kill me, lightning can't kill me, drought can't kill me, floods can't kill me. I'm rooted, I'm planted by the rivers of the eternal waters, the kingdom within me. And so I bring forth fruit in my season, nobody else's. Nothing to fear, nothing to hide, nothing to lose. So what's it going to be? Corona beer? Corona fear? Or Corona clear with what is? Thank you for being with me today. I really appreciate it. We'll do this again. And if you haven't, I invite you to subscribe. Subscribing keeps this going. It really does. So if you haven't subscribed, please do. And if you want to, be with me next time. We'll continue our trek together in being trees. And I think next time we'll talk about a sort of similar and parallel picture out of Matthew chapter 6 about the flowers and what it means to be a flower. And that's Jesus talking from the New Testament now, giving the picture of who we are called to be and calling us like flowers. Thanks again. All the best to you. God bless you. And welcome back next time on Prodigal Pastor.